What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're taking a look at the 2021 Candyman sequel, directed by Nia DaCosta, produced by Jordan Peele. This movie is a direct sequel to that first movie, and it follows Anthony McCoy, who was the baby of that movie that was kidnapped by Candyman. We're now following him when he's much about 30 years older. So yeah, that's the overall plot of this movie. Let's just talk about it. So right off the bat, I'm just going to flat out say that I did not like Candyman 2021. I didn't think this movie was any good. I think the critics have overhyped and overrated this movie. After watching it, I can honestly say that this movie, it just didn't do it for me whatsoever. It did have some things that I liked, but the majority of the stuff that was in this film, I just did not care for it. So let me just get my pros out of the way first, because there's very little of them. Pro number one, the overall acting in this movie was really solid. I think Yahya Abdul-Manti II, who played the older Anthony McCoy, I think he did a good job in the lead role. I think he played the role well. There were certain scenes where he got a little bit too hammy with it, where he could have dialed it down a lot. But as an overall lead character and performance, I thought he was fine. Most of the on-screen chemistry he had with his co-stars was believable to me. Teyonah Parris, who played Bianca, his girlfriend, she was okay too. Honestly, truthfully, I don't really think Teyonah Parris is that great of an actress, to be honest with you. I think she's above average when it comes to her acting abilities. Not to say that she's horrible or anything. I just think she's okay. The same thing with Manti II. Like prior to this, I've only seen him in Aquaman, and his performance in that movie didn't really wow me either. But solid performances from solid actors who are not not going to give you the most memorable things. But for the context of this unmemorable movie, they gave you a decent performance enough. And the other actors that surround them, they also played their roles fairly well too. Like, the acting in this movie is not my biggest gripe. The acting was solid and fine for the most part. The visuals of this movie, visually, this movie is not bad. The production values look good. This movie has got a modern, slick feel to it. So the visuals are very clean and very crisp. Nia DaCosta as a director, she ain't the greatest thing she ain't the greatest filmmaker you'll ever see in your life. And I'm just going based off the Candyman. Her directing of this movie is adequate. It's nothing spectacular. It's nothing over the top. It's decent. I'm sorry. This woman is no Bernard Rose. Her visuals did not even come close to eclipsing what he did in that first movie. And to a lesser extent, she didn't even come close to eclipsing Bill Condon, who did Candyman 2. If anything, she did a better job than the teen who did Candyman 3, because that movie just trash. I mean, if I were to compare this movie to Candyman 3, I'm going to choose this movie because at least visually, it looks better, it looks more fluid, it looks more cleaner. And directing-wise, it's much more solid and actually has a creative focus, even though I think that focus is really stupid, and there are a lot of instances in this movie where it contradicts itself. It does have some focus, I'm assuming. I don't know. But yeah, overall, Nia DaCosta's direction is fine, is okay. Nothing spectacular, but nothing memorable either. Bernard Rose and Bill Condon eclipsed this woman with their talent when it comes to this franchise any day of the week. Come at me. The cinematography is fine. Again, it's a good-looking movie. They did a good job at capturing a modern feel with it. But then, again, that doesn't mean that it was visually striking or interesting, but they did try to do some creativeness to it. They did try to do some perspective shots by the use of mirrors, and it was an interesting concept that I don't think they fully elaborated on or explored. And this is where we're going to get into a lot of the negatives. So the whole premise of Candyman, of this movie, is the following of the Anthony McCoy character, who is a struggling artist trying to look for a spark. So by doing that, he goes into the slums of Capini Green, where the tale of Candyman is told to him. Only, it's not the tale of Daniel Robitaille, the Candyman. It's the tale of Sherman Fields, this rando dude who had a hook for a hand, who was giving out candies to kids, who was suspected of putting razor blades in candies. And when a white girl, of course, it gets one of these candies, the cops go to Cabrini Green and beat him up after he scares this kid named William Burke. And it's actually this Burke character who tells Anthony the story of Sherman Fields and the Candyman. Right off the bat, I hate this. Who is Sherman Fields? Why should I care about this man? What is it about him am I supposed to care about him being beaten to death by cops? Why? What's the reason? Who was he? Nothing. We don't learn a lot about Jordan Peele to even care about this man. Not only that, the overall direction and where they took the Candyman mythos, I am not a fan of whatsoever. Listen, to make a long story short, they turned Candyman into a hive mind. I'm not even going to dance around it. They turned into a hive mind, and I hate it. I hated it. I think it takes way too much away from the overall Candyman character. Listen, Candyman, Daniel Robitaille. Daniel Robitaille is the man who has the sympathetic backstory. He's the man who has a backstory that you can empathize with, that you can appreciate, not the Candyman. The Candyman is a mantle of his hatred and his anger and his despair. Candyman is a vengeful, narcissistic specter who gets revenge, who kills those who try to discredit his legend. He is not a hive mind for repressed, innocently killed people. That's never what the Candyman was about. He's not about avenging anything. He's about instilling fear. This movie tried to take the direction of turning Candyman into an anti-hero, and it fails miserably. Now, if you like the direction of the hive mind and what they tried to do with Candyman, good for you. But as somebody who is a fan of this franchise and has watched this franchise from a very early age, and I've seen all three movies more than once, I hate this direction. It takes away from the Candyman mythos. It takes away from Daniel Robitaille. It really does. Because it's like, yes, Daniel Robitaille is the foundation for the Candyman, but now that you added on this whole thing of the Candyman is a symbol of, innocently killed black people and repressed black people. Like, no, that's not what the Candyman is. And this is Jordan Peele bringing in his politics, which I freaking can't stand, because he does a lot of that nonsense in this movie. Everything to this man is, gentrification was done by the white folk. When if you watch the first Candyman movie, they talk about gentrification in a much more calmer, realistic way. Every white person in this movie is an asshole. Every cop in this movie is a racist. This is Jordan Peele putting his grubby hands on a franchise and having to overload on the racism aspect of the Candyman character. Listen, the racism aspect of Candyman works best when it's Daniel Robitaille, singular. And then when Robitaille is dead and comes back as the vengeful specter spirit, it's something much more hideous and dangerous. Like, yes, we empathize with the man's backstory, but we don't empathize with what he's doing. Because at the end of the day, he's killing innocent people. That's what the Candyman character is about. The Candyman is not about killing people who are repressed towards blacks. That's never what his intention was or is. I mean, watch the first movie. The reason why he's after Helen Lyle is because she is a reincarnation of his long-loved Caroline. Watch Farewell to the Flesh. The reason why he's after Annie is because they share a bloodline together. None of these aspects fit into the whole I have to kill these people for the community that was shunned by the whites. That's stupid and garbage and dumb. I hate it. So yeah, not only that, the kills in this movie are so forgettable. They're not even gory or graphic. Number one, you are making a horror movie. If you're not going to tell me an intriguing story, which this movie did not do, at least give me good creative kills. This movie did not have any good creative kills, and this is where the whole perspective shots with the mirrors comes to play in, because you could have really did a lot of cool things by using that motif, but you went for the whole stock and generic, let's do most of the kills off screen, and it is a failure. Listen, the first Candyman movie, it did not have a lot of kills to it, but when the Candyman would kill, it meant something. And when you see the aftermath of those kills, they were gruesome, and the kills that we did see off screen, they were brutal and just creepy to watch. And a lot of those kills did not have the use of music, which made them even more effective. Speaking of which, where's Philip Glass's music in this movie? You hear it maybe a handful of times, but you have this new score which sucks and adds no nuance or ambiance to the film. Again, I reiterate, you watch that first Candyman movie and Philip Glass's score immediately heightens your viewing of it. It just creates this inner city urban legend type of scary atmosphere. The music in this movie did not iterate no fear into me. It was just bland, like very, very bland, stock and generic. I'm sorry, I hated the music of this movie. No Philip Glass, and that's a big draw for me. That's a big drawback for me. You need that Philip Glass score because it's so iconic. with the Candyman character. It's what he is. And lastly, so yes, as I said, so this movie's version of the Candyman is this guy called Sherman Fields, who was killed in the late 70s. So he's the specter spirit who is avenging his unwanted death. Whatever. Then we get to the third act of the movie where the William Burke character automatically turns into a villain, and you get a forced, contrived kidnapping where he wants to transfer the Candyman spirit into Anthony. It's like so stupid, convoluted, and dumb, and makes absolutely zero sense where this turn came from. And then when Brianna's captured by the racist cops, she summons Anthony as Candyman, and then we get like a brief 2-second clip of Tony Todd tell everyone. How about this? I'm going to tell everyone this movie sucks. Horrible utilization of Tony Todd in a singular character. This should have been no Sherman Fields. It should have been Tony Todd's Candyman coming back 30 plus years later to finish the job and get Anthony, since he was stopped the first time around. There was a built-in story there that you could have done. Having Anthony have these repressed memories of nearly being a victim of Candyman, and having Helen Lyle be pretty much his savior in a way. Instead, this movie took a direction that just sucked. So yeah, with all that being said, I'm just going to give Candyman a solid 4 out of 10. It's very, very skippable. Did not like it. It's better than the third movie, but when compared to the first two, the movie's not that good. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more. Okay, so I just want to add an extra addendum about the character of Sherman Fields and why I think the character of Sherman Fields in this 2021 Candyman movie just doesn't work for me. So, number one, the whole thing with Sherman Fields is that he had a hook for a hand and was giving out candies to the kids of Cabrini Green. And the reason why he got caught is because they were suspected of having razor blades, he was suspected of putting razor blades in said candy. And he was proven innocent 2 weeks after his death by the racist cops. Now, the biggest flaw with this is, number one, Sherman Fields lives in Cabrini Green. I am pretty sure he's lucid enough to know the legend of Daniel Robitaille and why he's called the Candyman. And number one, why in God's name would you scare kids with a hook on your hand giving out candy knowing this in Cabrini Green? That automatically makes the Sherman Fields character problematic, especially when you discredit him as being innocent and not having any psychopathic tendencies. It's stupid and dumb, and I don't like it. Yes, that's all I wanted to say.